Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our YouTube live stream today. What are we talking about today? Well, so you or your spouse have paid probably over 60,000, maybe even over 100,000 in college or university tuitions or whatnot, legal fees and other expenses to come and study in Canada to obtain a work permit and eventually get your permanent residency, right? If you've attended UBC in Vancouver or University of Toronto, you've probably paid over 250,000 by the time you've actually graduated from an undergraduate degree taking 4 years. But now that you have a work permit, there are no jobs, or at least there's no jobs that are career oriented for you. Perhaps you have a job, you've gained Canadian work experience, but are not receiving any invitations from the provincial nominee or express entry system to be able to apply for your permanent residency while you have valid status, i.e., a valid work permit inside the country. What do? Are there any options left? Do you just return back to your home country and give up? Do you move up north to a small village in Canada and survive minus 45 degrees Celsius winters and don't see civilization for another 4 years? Don't get me wrong, everyone in those little villages and towns is super nice and I love them. But for people who have lived in large cities back in their home countries or are based in Toronto, they're not used to living in small towns of populations of 5,000 or less than 10,000. The reality is it would be very challenging to move up north. There is a solution though. That's what we'll cover today in this unedited, uncensored live stream on our YouTube channel. The exposed truth, just like the rest of our videos, folks. Okay. Quick introduction if you don't know me or what we're talking about here. My name is Reza. I'm the founder of Inguway, global residency and citizenship legal firm, where we offer international clients secure and low risk investments, alternative residencies, and passport programs. We have an active portfolio of over 20 different countries and programs throughout the world that opens up a world of possibilities for families, investors, serious professionals seeking returns on investments and or alternative residencies and citizenships. Whether you call it plan B, plan A, plan C, or whatever it is, maybe it's not a plan, it's an actionable goal. Well, we handle that. Our team is licensed both in immigration, residency, citizenship, and real estate. We work both with B2B and B2C channels, meaning we cooperate with financial and investment advisors, real estate brokerages, bankers, and directly with you, the individual investor, or perhaps your family. At Inguway, we've successfully helped thousands of clients since 2018 with whatever program or investment globally that they were interested in. Our existing portfolio includes Europe, Central America, North America, the Caribbean islands, and even New Zealand. Whether you're seeking to invest in real estate, aiming to retire comfortably and enhance your quality of life with positive cash flow, find crypto-friendly tax countries perhaps, or perhaps even acquire direct citizenship without moving anywhere, or fast-track residency, whether it's for yourself, your clients, or future generations. That's what we're here to help with. We're not a typical sales company. We educate you, provide you the resources, guide you, help you weigh all the options based on risk, returns, and matching your short, medium, and long-term goals. You can consider us as a custom solution provider. Our global partnerships and multilingual team ensure that no matter where you're coming from or where you plan to invest, you'll have seamless support and our team's expertise. If you want to ask us a question, tune into our YouTube live stream, which is now every Thursday, or send us a message using the links below this video, or go on our website and fill the contact us page. We'd be happy to connect with you. Let's get into it. Here's the cold hard truth, folks. 500,000 applicants were destined to be PR in Canada during 2025 and another 500,000 in 2026, as per the Canadian government's original initial 3-year immigration plan from 2023. Okay. Now only 395,000 are supposed to be processed. So that's a cut of 105,000 right there. Who knows if they'll reduce the targets even further. The IRCC and the Canadian government have a reputation for doing U-turns and 180-degree changes in policy overnight after they've initially announced something completely different. Okay? With over 4 million temporary residents inside Canada as we speak, okay, whether it's with study permits or work permits, what's the ultimate plan of the Canadian government in order to process these applicants? Or is it their plan to kick everyone out? If you could tap into the Canadian government's mind when they dream at night, you notice that in their ideal fantasy world, all these temporary residents would just get on a plane, leave voluntarily when their permits expires. But we know the reality is the exact opposite. More than 70% of these temporary residents will do everything in their power to stay legally, hopefully, right? But the Canadian government is making this extremely difficult. Let's look at the cold hard statistics in terms of figuring out why, and if you're an international student or a graduate student with a work permit, or perhaps the spouse or common law of an international student or worker, that it's unlikely that you will ever have a chance at PR in Canada. I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you today. The only exception for you would be if you're a spouse or you can achieve a CLB7 in French and have over 470 or 400 points in express entry, or you're in a designated healthcare occupation or other specific occupations, and you've got over 470 points in express entry. If you're not in that category, I have bad news for you. Unless you're a farm worker and you do the agri-food pilot, or like a greenhouse nursery worker. Unless you're in these categories, I have bad news for you. Remember, I have no political alignments and just report the cold hard truth. Sometimes it's too hard to listen to, and sometimes, some people may not like it. As of August 17th, 2025, there are 254,113 applicants with a valid profile in the express entry pool, waiting for an invitation to apply. This is a record high in the entire history of the express entry system since its launch in early 2015, so 10 years. When there was only 41,218 applicants with valid profiles. So what is that? That's over a 6-time multiple, okay? And we've never seen such a huge number of people stuck in the express entry pool and not being able. So even if you have 500 points today, 7 years ago, that was guaranteed. 7 years ago, if you had over 400, you were getting a PR invitation. Today, if you have 500 and you just have Canadian work experience and you are not in those occupations and you don't speak French, good luck with that. Let's look at the PNP, some of them. Alberta's Provincial Nominee Program, also known as the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, AAIP. But I like to call it or rename it as the Alberta Disadvantage Immigration Whole, ADIH. Okay, and why? It has a total of 484,875 allocations from the federal government to process PRs in 2025, this year, of which 3,251 have already been issued. So they already got their nominations to apply for PR. Good for them. And 1,998 applications already received an invitation to apply and are under process, which is approximately 330 applicants more than their entire quota for this year. So next year's quota for all provinces is even lower. This means that if you're in Alberta's PNP pool, we call it the Alberta Disadvantage Immigration Hole, like the rest of the 63,926 applicants as of today, who have not yet received an invitation, your estimated time of being invited and being processed for PR, considering a 20 to 24-month PR processing time after the nomination, which is after the invitation to apply, is a very long road. How long? I don't know. The Wizard of Oz doesn't even know. The backlog in Alberta is estimated to be fully processed by the year 2038. And that's if no further applicants enter the pool, which is unlikely. Let's move on to the Ontario Provincial Nominee Program. PNP, which we would like to rename as probably never nominated PIT, PNNP. I think that's a much better name for the PNP in Ontario. Don't you agree? Probably never nominated PIT, PNNP. In Ontario, 21,500 applicants were processed and nominated for PR in 2024. This year, this quota is cut in half, meaning only approximately 10,750 applicants will be invited and processed for a nomination to allow them to apply for PR in the most populated province in all of Canada, meaning they have probably some of the highest allocations compared to Quebec. It is estimated that more than 7,500, close to 8,000 of these invitations for Ontario have already been issued, and only less than 2,500, 2,000 allocations are left for invitations. And this is just a guess, an estimation. It's not reported for the remaining 4 months of 2025. Since OINP, the Ontario PNP, does not report how many applicants are in the pool right now, we estimate to have more than 100,000 applicants, at least maybe over 120,000 in the pool. But this information is not verified, but our best estimated approximation. But here's the catch, folks. Okay, yeah, I'm throwing all these numbers and stats, and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoo, whoo, whoo. Okay, what does that all mean? And here's the catch, which is even more depressing. By the time it'll be your turn in any of these provincial nomination pools, or as we call them, pits or holes, to receive an invitation for your PR, based on the new provincial quotas and existing backlog, your work permits have already expired with no chance or unrealistically low chance of any renewal to gain valid status as a worker in Canada. And we all know how difficult it is to have an employer accept to do an LMIA. And if they do, unless you speak French, then they don't need an LMIA. But unless they accept the LMIA, then you got to go through Service Canada, which is unlikely to process anything in less than 6 months, and very likely to refuse an LMIA application if it's in low wage, high unemployment metropolitan area inside Canada. It's like the chicken or the egg dilemma. You remember that? Chicken or the egg, which one came from? Except that in this case, it's already a crushed egg and a dead chicken. I apologize for the analogy, but I'm just trying to explain to you that it's pretty hopeless if you're inside Canada and you do not have a PR application, unless you're a farm worker, you're a specific health occupation that has over 470 points in Express Entry, you speak French and you're in Express Entry, right? These are the things. No animals or eggs were harmed in the making of this live stream. So I guarantee you that. Anyways, now let's turn the page and explore options some of you may have to save your investments in Canada by converting to PR. Whether this investment is for your children studying and working in the country, you're overseas, but you got to protect them, right? That's what I would do. The investment of all the tuition and living expenses you spent out of pocket, or perhaps the fact that your entire immediate family has already settled in Canada. They're going to school, they've made friends. Maybe you or your spouse or Kamala has jobs, and you really have planned to live here for the rest of your life until the US invades and we become all American citizens. Okay. Who should be listening to this next section of our lives here on some potential options to convert to PR from inside Canada? Either you're the parents of an international student or fresh graduate work permit holder, you're the spouse or common law of the international student or worker inside Canada, or perhaps you're a mature international student worker, meaning you're probably over 27 years old with at least 3 years or more professional work experience in your home country. Those are the people who should be listening now. You've invested all that money and time, literally given up everything in your home country, came to Canada, and then now you're stuck. The key is to take matters in your own hand. Meaning, depending on some random pool, provincial or federal, to be invited or doing a Hail Mary is not a tangible strategy. It's not a plan. Hey, I'm going to win the lottery one day and pay off all my debt. What? The way to take control is to convert to become an entrepreneur in Canada with a clear path to PR. Is it legal? Yes. And I'll explain to you how and who's eligible. Remember, only for eligible applicants. And we're going to cover who's not eligible first so you can switch the channel, and then whoever's left can continue to watch. If you're a fresh graduate who only studied in your own home country in either high school or university, and you've got no documented professional work experience from overseas, and maybe you just gained some work experience while you were studying in Canada, these are usually kids between the ages of 16 to 24, 25. You would probably most likely not qualify for any of the entrepreneur, business, or investment migration programs in Canada that can lead to PR. However, your parents could. So if you've got the parents, maybe they can handle it for you. Or who else is not eligible for these business investment migrations? You're an international worker inside Canada with a closed work permit for low-skilled occupations, such as construction, farming, cleaning. You would not qualify for these programs. However, the good news is that you've got the agri-food pilot program, you've got upcoming federal construction worker stream coming up eventually, we don't know when, and other low-skilled occupations which are prioritized by the provinces and the federal government. Okay, and you've got higher chances of being invited for PR in those pools than a doctor, an engineer, or multimillionaire business person. Okay, now you're a doctor, engineer, multimillionaire business person, or just an entrepreneur, professional business person. Don't have to be a multimillionaire, and you want a PR. Okay, continue. Another group who would not qualify is, let's say you're an occupation of a cook, a chef, a waiter, waitress, restaurant counter attendant, cashier, delivery person, courier, and so on. In that case, perhaps you may have parents overseas who could qualify for the program, and they'll apply. And as long as you're under the age of 22, when they apply for the PR, you could be included. The unfortunate truth, folks, is that the Canadian government is not prioritizing hospitality occupations, although Canada needs these categories of workers to keep its industries alive. If the Canadian government actually removed all the 4 million temporary residents from Canada overnight, I hope not, there would be nobody to cook, prepare, serve, or deliver your food at home or in a coffee shop or restaurant. And to make it worse, our agricultural industry may collapse if there's not enough people to work in these greenhouses, farms, meat cutting facilities. You get the point, right? On behalf of the Canadian government, I do apologize for these workers who are working their butts off in Canada. But unfortunately, the business and investment migration options are not open to you. I mean, you're not eligible. The reality is, if you're 18 to 24 years old, it's unlikely you would have experience, like actually gained qualified work experience as an entrepreneur or management, senior experience, or business ownership experience in the last 3 years, whether it's outside the country. Of course, if you're a software engineer or application developer or similar tech occupations with at least 3-year proven documented work experience, there's a chance for technical occupations and in the business investment world as well. If you have work experience but no documents to prove it, then you should also not consider any of these programs we're offering you right now or discussing that can lead to PR versus via the business and investment migration world. And of course, we're going to get all to the YouTube questions and comments right after this presentation, folks. Okay. There are 3 business and investment programs in Canada which lead to PR. No, these are not the C10, C11 work permits, the intercompany transfer, or the bilateral investor work permits. No, those do not lead to PR under any circumstances this year. What I'm talking about is the Provincial Nominee Entrepreneurial Program, the Federal Startup Visa Business Immigration Program, and the Quebec Immigrant Investor Program, QIIP. Just to shorten or list even further, unless you or your parents speak French and have $2 million worth of assets and they have a $1.2 million ready to donate to the Quebec government, which will be refunded in 5 years, except the $200,000 part of the 1.2, then we're not going to cover that today, okay? Because that's very niche, the Quebec Immigrant Investor Program. But the entrepreneurial PNP programs are work permit to PR programs, and they're open to any applicants inside Canada who have status, even if you're visitor status. So if you're an international worker or graduate student, or perhaps converted to visitor status because your work permit has expired, and you go through the Provincial Entrepreneur Program to qualify to obtain a work permit to run your business and be nominated for PR in either 6 to 12 months in most provinces. So you've got to run the business with that work permit 6 to 12 months in most provinces, except 18 to 20 months in the province of BC. Unfortunately, Ontario has no business investment or entrepreneurial program because we have too many successful businesses already in Ontario and don't want anyone else coming here that has money to invest. And this is just my guess. It seems like we live in a business investment utopia in Ontario, right? We don't need entrepreneurs. We don't need investors. Please go away. That's what the government's saying, not me. The minimum eligibility criteria for the provincial entrepreneur programs ranges from minimum $100,000 in liquid funds to invest with $300,000 net worth of your global assets, including real estate. Although we always recommend to be 20-25% above that minimum threshold because you never get in with the minimum. And in most cases, other provinces, besides the rural, you're investing over $250,000, that's a minimum criteria, and at least $500,000 or $600,000 net worth in combined assets with you and your spouse to qualify. You do need a net worth audit after you're invited, but to qualify to get into the pool of the specific provinces' entrepreneurial programs, you need to have at least 3 years of management or combined business ownership and management experience. That's the bare minimum. So it could be senior management experience or ownership or combination. If you don't have that, you're not getting anywhere. This does not guarantee you would be invited to participate in the programs, the provincial programs. If you do get invited, of course, you'd have to do an interview, net worth audit, submit all your documents, and then sign the agreement to apply for a work permit. You would need to run the business for 12 months in most provinces, except New Brunswick and Manitoba, which are 6 months. In BC, it's 18 to 20 months. After running the business, not moving out of the city or province for at least 80 to 85% of the time staying there, you would be nominated and would have to stay another 2 years while the federal government processes your PR running that business that you committed to with the provincial program. The disadvantages of the provincial entrepreneur program are some provinces have age limits of 55. All provinces have points-based systems, meaning if you don't have enough points, it doesn't matter how much money you have or your genuine intentions, you may not be invited at all to participate in the program. Word of caution for Alberta's Rural Entrepreneur Program, check the latest stats on their website. There's less than a 5% chance you'll be invited in the next 12 months. I think they invited 4 people and there's like 60-something people already in the pool for the entrepreneur program. You can check the latest stats. That has the highest demand because it's a low investment threshold. It is very unlikely you'll be invited there. You will be on a closed work permit to run your own business. This is another disadvantage of the entrepreneur provincial program. Meaning if your business is making a loss, you cannot work on the side to supplement your income. So you better have deep pockets or your in-laws or your parents, okay? Or you win the lottery. Okay, if you can't prove net worth documents, you cannot qualify for the provincial entrepreneur program. And one more point, if you studied in one province like Ontario and trying to apply for an entrepreneur program in BC, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Manitoba, you're unlikely to be invited unless you've got immediate family members in that province who've been there for over 3 years or PR citizen status. You know, it's not impossible to be invited, but very unlikely. Let's say you don't qualify for the provincial entrepreneur program. You're like, okay, that's just, I can't qualify, or it's taking too long, and are based in Ontario and can't or don't want to move to another region in Canada. So you could be anywhere in Canada. If you're in Ontario, you definitely don't have a lot of options. Even the provincial entrepreneur program here doesn't exist. The next option is the Startup Visa Business Federal Business Immigration Program. So you can apply for your PR through this program, even if you're inside Canada, holding a work permit or even a study permit or even on a visitor status. So applying for PR under any of these programs is allowed. Remember, we're always posting about key details for investors, entrepreneurs, for new programs and policy changes, seeking positive ROI for your investments globally, residencies, passports, and tax relief. And if you're interested, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because it's free. Here's the quick overview of what is required for the Startup Visa Federal Business Immigration Program, which is a PR to work permit. PR with optional work permit. Okay, so you first apply for PR, then you can choose to apply for a work permit. You need professional work experience from abroad or after you've graduated in Canada, occupations such as tech, finance, management, engineering, and so on. You've invested in a startup business as a co-founder. There can be 1 to 5 co-founders in one business. And there's been groups where students have come together in a group for Canada to create a startup inside Canada. You can even have your parents apply from overseas as co-founders if you're still under the age of 22 and be included in their PR application. Remember, the age of your children will be locked in the day you apply for PR. And what's the fastest program to apply for PR to lock your children's age? It's the Startup Visa Business Program. Your startup business with the rest of the co-founders should be endorsed by a designated organization, preferably a priority designated organization, such as Venture Capital, Canada Tech Network, Incubator, or Angel Investor. You apply from PR inside Canada or outside Canada, and you've got an optional work permit. So you don't have to come to Canada. You can apply for a PR and even stay outside Canada. Or you decide, I want the work permit and stay or come to Canada. So there's no regulation in Canada to prohibit or prevent international workers or students or spouses of these applicants to apply for either the Provincial Entrepreneur Program or the Startup Visa PR stream, unless you do not meet the eligibility. Here are the advantages of the Startup Visa Business Program. No net worth requirements, no age limit, no points or provincial nominee pools or invitations to apply. You can apply for your PR literally within 2 to 3 months if you become part of a startup that has been endorsed by a designated organization. You can get away with less liquid funds than the minimum. You don't need hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to prove to the government. You receive a 3-year open work permit. So does your spouse in common law and kids with study permits. You can decide to stay overseas if you don't want or need a work permit to stay inside Canada until the PR decision comes in, right? So you can decide, I want to stay outside Canada until the PR, or I want to stay inside Canada with a work permit, right? So it's up to you. Why would you pick the Provincial Entrepreneur Program or Startup Visa Program versus Express Entry or the PNP stream to convert to PR or your kids to PR? Well, take control of your own destiny. Don't leave it to a lottery or a pool and maybe you'll get PR. By that time, your status is expired or the government has changed. Your work permit is expiring in less than 6 months. The reality is you need 3 years or more work permit to have a chance at the provincial nominee programs because of the huge backlog. Again, if you speak French and you're in the Express Entry pool, great. Stop watching this video now. The fast and reliable option for a 3-year work permit is the Startup Visa Program that allows you to apply for PR upfront. Spouses to apply if student is still studying, right? So spouses can apply even if your spouse is still studying as an international student. That's also key. Can you apply for more than one PR program in Canada? Well, SUV allows this. If you're an essential member for a work permit, then no, you cannot apply for another PR program. It cannot be processed. You can apply, but one of them will be withdrawn automatically. You cannot have 2 concurrent ones be processed, and it will affect your startup group. However, if you already have a 2-3 year work permit and you don't need a work permit through the startup visa, you can be a non-essential member, meaning you can apply for PR, but not the work permit. Keep your open work permit as a postgraduate work permit holder or spousal open work permit holder. And then if something happens in the next 2 years and you get a PR that way, you withdraw and go that route. But otherwise, you would affect everyone in the group if you had a work permit as an essential member. But if you're not an essential and you already have a work permit, or let's say you're staying overseas, right? Then if you withdraw your PR application, you can, because you have another PR application ongoing through an Express Entry or PNP, then that's okay. With the Provincial Entrepreneur Program, it's 100% possible, meaning that if you going through the PNP Entrepreneur, but for some reason you got lucky or your spouse got lucky through the PNP Skilled Worker stream or the Express Entry, you can just drop the PNP Entrepreneur. It won't affect anyone. You'll get a PR through another way. Is it cost effective? Are these routes cost effective? Well, you need some money. These are business and investment migration. If you can't afford those, then yeah, they're not your cup of tea. So imagine you spend 2 years in college, you probably paid $20,000 a year, so $40,000. You paid some legal fees and government fees, probably another $5,000 to $10,000 over the years. You've rented, you've expensed, so you've spent over $80,000 in 2 years. If you're here 4 years, you've spent over 100,000 Canadian dollars. And maybe you don't have a job that qualifies for PR. Maybe you or your spouse don't have a job. You have no possibility of PR. At least nobody's giving you an option for PR. Okay, so you spend $60,000 to $100,000 and you have no good paying job, or you have no prospects for PR. Okay, it's not your fault. I'm just giving you the reality. I'm doing a comparison. What about the startup visa business program? Well, you get a 3-year open work permit. That's not bad. You don't need to, and you apply for PR upfront. That's not bad. So when you compare spending over hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in as a student, or having your kids and then no serious prospects for PR, but then you can spend on the startup visa, meaning you invest and then you get an open work permit that's renewable. Postgraduate work permits are not. And you apply for PR first. It's a no-brainer. Who else can apply? US mature students. Yeah, you're in the US, you've spent probably $500,000 by now, and the Trump government doesn't want you to stay. Well, you can apply as a startup visa investor in one of the and move here, or stay in the US till you're PR. Canadian mature students, like we covered, parents of students applying from overseas to secure their kids' PRs because the kids are in Canada, right? Or the spouses of international workers and students. They can apply. It doesn't have to be the international student or worker to apply for the PR, as long as you qualify. What are the 4 non-negotiables for the startup visa business? You got to have an innovative idea. If you don't, you're investing in a startup, becoming a co-founder of an existing startup with an innovative solution. Designated organization has to endorse that startup. So not any designated organization. It's got to be listed on the startup visa website. And you can have a startup, but if they're not endorsing you, you're not getting anywhere. You need that to be able to apply for PR. You need proof of language, CLB 5, which is very low, English or French. And you need minimum settlement funds. Okay, and I'll put the links in the article for the minimum settlement and investment funds. Minimum settlement funds for a family, one person is around 15,000 plus. If you have a family of 2 or 3, it just goes up by 7,000 approximately. I'm just generalizing here, but again, there's specific tables that I'll provide the links to, or you can reach out to us and you can request our SUV 101 guide, the Startup Visa 101 guide, which is the most comprehensive startup visa guide for anyone who's contemplating. How students can be credible founders. Yeah, for startup visa, you can have technical roles if you're in tech, CIO, or maybe you're lead developer engineer, because maybe you don't have management or senior experience, but you do have that technical experience. Maybe you've been part of the family business overseas, right? So maybe you have your own business overseas, so it means you do have management experience. Maybe you were in the corporate world back home. Well, you had a few people reporting to you, right? So whether it's technical, finance, whether it's more senior management or entrepreneurial, maybe you've had 3 startups, maybe they failed, doesn't matter. Startups fail, right? In the real world. Entrepreneurs fail several times before they become successful. That's a good sign. Designated organizations, what are you looking for? You've got to do a pitch. You've got to get the business plan together. You got to do an interview, and they got to accept you. Then you pay their fees and then you get in, right? And of course, you need an MVP, minimum viable product. All these things are there. What's the timeline? You can technically, if you join an existing startup, get into a PR within 2 to 3 months, sometimes even less than 1 month, sometimes 3 months. Depends which startup you join as an investor and become involved, right? Avoid paper startups. You invest in real startups, okay? Meaning traction, hiring Canadians, investing. If you don't do that, you might be a sitting duck. Okay, folks, if you like international investment hacks, creative residency citizenship solutions, or key analysis and the exposed truth about programs, policies, and updates around the world, including Canada, then you can click on the subscribe button for our YouTube channel, where we post more videos and latest investment programs, residencies, citizenships, and fast-track passport programs. At Inguway, we've created a customized solution depending on your needs with clear upfront timelines and processes. We offer a variety of programs to match our goals, backed by our expert guidance. Our commitment to you is transparency, choice, and security. With comprehensive professional errors and omissions insurance and an insured client trust account in our North American banking institutions, we protect your interests. Plus, our multilingual team speaks over 10 languages and has helped clients from 55 different nationalities. Ready to take the next step? Click on the link below to contact us, or maybe you want to book a one-on-one session. If you are qualified, I can get on a call with you. It's all about budgets, timelines, eligibility, okay? And remember, folks, I'm not saying one program is heavenly and one isn't. In Canada, this is how you make a decision. Which program is less painful? So you've got to pick the least worst program. There is no program in Canada that's actually good. And I think you agree with me on that. Unless you're a French speaker who's eligible for Express Entry, you get a pass on this one. Okay, let's go into the questions and comments. Again, we're here every Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We started a bit later today, but you can post your comments and questions. So SAM says, hi, everyone. Hello. We've got somebody, I can't pronounce the name because I think it's in a different script. Hi, please allow me to write this comment. Okay, you can write the comment. Go ahead. Sahil Malik says, hi. Hello, Sahil. Meharjeet Singh says, BCPNP, you need more than $100 per hour salary. Meharjeet, they don't want to invite people. That's why they make these rules. This is how Canada works. They don't say no. Everyone's nice. Hi. You walk by. Hi. Right? Everyone's super nice. You want something? Oh, you want a PR. Are you like, do you need a PhD, $100 an hour? They don't even make $100 an hour. How can they expect a non-resident to make $100 an hour to be invited? You know what that is? That's just a very polite, indirect way of Canadian way of saying no, go away, right? That's unfortunate, because usually what happens when immigrants come into their country, we downgrade them for free. Hi, welcome aboard. You get a free downgrade. Instead of economy class, we're putting you in the baggage compartment downstairs. That's what happens to engineers and doctors, right? That's a reality. If somebody argues with that, that's fine. But that is the reality. If you know that, you agree, give me a thumbs up, okay? And then they expect you to get $100 an hour salary, wage to get a PR. What is that? That's rude, plain rude. Sahil Malik, any update on the startup visa? Sahil, wait till September. End of September, things will get back on track. They will finish the quota by December because they want to process everyone in that timeline. SVUB, why is SUV application pipeline so badly choked? The processing times are only going higher and higher and hardly any approvals. So SVUB, I've told this many times regarding sort of visa business immigration program. They didn't do anything for 8 months. So they've paused the processing for 8 months to process the quota because they have a quota. They actually have to get 2,000 PRs out of this program with self-employed this year. But they couldn't do that at the beginning of the year. So they're going to do it at the end of the year. So they have to choke it. Okay? And just watch some of our other videos, live streams, and I've explained in a bit further. I just don't want to become a broken record here for everyone who joins us every week. Hi, I received my ADR acknowledgement of receipt in August 3rd, 2024. Since then, I have not heard from IRCC. It has been more than a year now. How long will it take for PR? It's really frustrating. Sahil, if you're is the government doing some things for SUV programming? It's taking long. Yes, it's taking long. So you got to keep that in mind, that it will take time to process. These are not 1-year programs. These are 3.5-year programs. Dr. 832, hello Reza, thank you for all that you do. Which of the exemption codes is best for me to use for SUV 3-year open work permit? They've updated it so many times, Dr. 832. I don't know what the exact exempt code is. I think they give you drop downs. Hold on. What is the, I'll ask my team. I'll ask because they've changed it so many times. It was like A77. I don't know if it's still the same. But folks, we're here every Thursday. And if you missed this session today, come back, rewind. This video is posted. We talked about students converting to become entrepreneurs, to apply for the PR, Provincial Entrepreneur Program, Startup Visa Program, or if your parents are wealthy and they speak French, you can do the Quebec Immigrant Investor Program, which is the only passive investment PR program in all of Canada. And we covered Startup Visa Business Program with your spouse, your Kamala, your parents, you can apply from anywhere and get a 3-year open work permit. How do you go into the provincial nominee pool with a 1-year, 2-year and think you'll get invited and get a PR? Maybe not possible. Express entry, tough. If you are, you're the lucky few, and kudos to you. And I'll be very honest with you folks. If they recycled me, so let's say right now they came in and they said, Reza, we're kicking you out of the country. And I had to go through the immigration program again to Canada to become PR. I don't think I would be eligible. That is a reality. If you recycled 99% of the population in Canada, I think not more than 10% would actually qualify to be processed as permanent residents in Canada in terms of eligibility and maybe even admissibility. That means medical and criminality. But the point being is that how can we expect you to convert to PR when we can't? We couldn't if we were in your shoes. And like Maharjit said, you need $100 an hour wage to qualify for BC Provincial Nominee Program. And like I said in our presentation today, doing these PNPs, what do we call them? We call them probably never nominated PIT. So we got to call them PNNPs, not PNPs. And Alberta's PNP, which is called the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, it should be called the Alberta Disadvantage Immigration Hole, ADIH, And I hope I'm not offending anyone, but that's the reality. If nobody's talking about the reality, then it's key. When you're working with a legal representative, they got to tell you it's going to take time. No program except Express Entry, after you've received an invitation, can you be processed for PR in less than 2.5 years. With SUV, it's 3.5 years right now. Priority, not the one that's posted on the website. That's for general. Priority designation 3.5. Non-priority, you're looking 5 to 6 years. If you're doing PNP, it'll take you 2 years for federal. It'll take you maybe 6 months, 12 months, 20 months to get an invitation, and then another 6 months for nominee. Do you have a 5-year open work permit? No, of course, nobody has it. Anyways, I talk too much. We're here next week. Check us out every Thursday. And of course, we're posting videos. And the hard truth, and sometimes I may offend people out there. I'm sorry. Okay, I am truly, genuinely sorry. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm not aligned with any political groups. I'm not aligned with anyone. I'm just giving it to you straight out. Okay, Express Entry. I don't know why people do all these webinars on Express Entry. Like, seriously, like, you know what I should do? I should do webinars on lottery. Like, the 649 lottery here in Canada where you can win $20 or $10 million. I should do a webinar because that's the same thing as doing a stupid webinar on Express Entry or live stream, right? Literally. Like, yeah, let's do it. You can become a millionaire if you just pick the right 6 numbers. Oh my God, this is amazing. Tell us more, folks, right? The reality is the skilled immigration has come to a halt. Startup visa has paused for 7 months process, but they're going to release the choke, like SVUB says, from September to December. At least it's processed. At least you apply for a PR. You're not hoping for a Hail Mary of an invitation to apply. Do I have enough points? Can I get invited? The quota for the PNP is done, right? Anyways, folks, that's my 2 cents on the matter. I hope you guys can comment on this video, maybe put a like or 2. Nobody's liked this live stream. Is it that bad? Am I going to be fired? Am I going to be kicked out? Do I have to go through a PNP to come back in? Seriously, folks, please show some mercy. Okay? We'll be back here next week. Take care, and more important, take care of your family, whether it's your kids, your spouse, Find a solution. Don't apply for the sake of applying. Don't hope you'll be invited. Take matters into your own hand. You got to make a decision. It's either A or B. It's black and white. It's not gray. Okay. Anyways, I'm talking about, you sound like Rush Limbaugh here. Okay. Take care, folks. Have a good one. We'll be back here next week. Yes, I'm in Canada. Yeah, I'm in Canada before they kick me out. Bye-bye now.